Hey everybody, it's Aunt, your cousin, your friend, your mom, whoever I am to you. If you're on my station, this is family stuff. So I've invited you to watch this video. I just wanted to make a video to say Happy Labor Day and to remind us all of something that Grandpa instilled in us, that he repeated. It's something I remember from my childhood, okay? And that is the true meaning of what it is to be a redneck, okay? Our grandfather, Oscar Church Jr., was a hard-working American man. His father, our great-granddaddy, Oscar, as well, Sr., he was a coal miner. And our grandpa, Oscar, was a coal miner for a time when he was growing up. But when the war broke out, World War II, he got the hell out of Dodge. He did not want to be in coal mines. He didn't like being in the earth. I think part of that is working in coal mines. Grandpa he was an iron worker in his adult life, and he could go up to the heights of the tippy top of a building and stand on a beam. That did not scare him at all. He loved to be high in the sky, like a bird, you know. But Grandpa did not want to be down under the earth or under a river or in the earth. Anything where it could collapse. It always frightened him. And Grandpa wasn't scared of many things, and I shouldn't be telling you any kind of weakness of my grandpa, but I think that being forced to be a coal miner when he was young might have given him some phobias about that stuff, right? And so Grandpa went on. He went into the army. He fought. He was an active service member when when World War II went down. Grandpa didn't. I asked him one time. I had a paper at school, and it was like, interview your grandparents who were in the war. Do you have any family in the war? And so I did a little interview to Grandpa, and he was extremely vague. Okay, extremely vague about war, because Grandpa didn't want to be telling kids about killing people. Although his swords that he confiscated, his spoils of war that he brought back from his time abroad, kind of told the tale, right? And we knew what war consisted of. And Grandpa, he didn't want to talk about it, right? So Grandpa was like a rock. Grandpa was a Scorpio sun, and he had Scorpio sun and a Taurus moon. So he was like the opposite of Grandma. Okay, I think he had a Taurus moon. I'm gonna have to check it out and make sure. It might have been a Capricorn moon. He had an earthy moon, and he was Capricorn rising. So Grandpa was a very solid type of guy. He was like the rock in our family, and losing Grandpa was hard. But he would tell us as kids, when he came back from the war, he learned a trade, or he learned a trade while he was in the war. How, I don't know how they do it, right? But when he came back, he built up a reputation as a hardworking man. He was an iron worker foreman. He created, like, there's all kinds of buildings around town, and when I drive through town, I'm always pointing them out to my kids, like, Grandpa Oscar built that building. Grandpa Oscar built that building. He built that bridge right there. Grandpa built that bridge. Like, everywhere I look, Grandpa even he helped construct in 1964, the library at Notre Dame. He was in the paper for that. His name is in the paper. You can go to the archives in the Mishawaka Library, and you can find Grandpa in the newspaper over and over and over again, because he was, he was a builder in town. And so when Grandpa was developing his career as an ironworker, he remembered the lessons that his daddy taught him, which was, the lessons of the redneck, which is that sometimes you got to strike for your rights. Sometimes, you got to be part of a union. You have to form unions so that you have some power when it comes to your conditions of work, your pay, your hours, your time off, your insurance, right? Because workers have to have rights. You do the work, man, and you should have privileges and benefits that come from that work. It's called value, And you can see in the past, in the 1900s, before there were any kind of labor unions or workers' rights, there were riots and battles that the coal miners had with the robber barons that had them in horrid conditions. Horrid conditions. It was just, if you look back in history, and I posted a video about the Battle of Blair Mountain, it's just astounding that that's where we came from. We forget that kind of stuff. And so nowadays, people look at the word redneck and they don't see the true meaning of it. They think of redneck as kind of like the equivalency of another, they think of it as a slur, right? They have created it, or they've changed it into a slur. If you call someone a hillbilly, that's kind of a slur too. you know, uh, they would call people, hill folk, or my grandpa's family's from Appalachia, and he has an Appalachian like twang. Some people call it a Southern accent, but they're not from the South, they're from Appalachia. So that's the type of accent that my grandpa had, our grandpa had. We all know that, the ones that remember grandpa. I hope that the kids of generations who don't know grandpa watch this so that they can kind of get an understanding of, the man that they all came from, because grandpa, he didn't just build buildings and bridges. He created relationships with other people. Um, he was devoted and dedicated to his family. He was a good man, but he would tell us, he called himself a redneck, and he would say, be proud. I'm proud to be a redneck, because rednecks fought for their rights. Okay. Because it was the rednecks, the men, the coal miners that lost their lives and fought for unions, you know, and so that is something to be proud of. Nowadays what they've done is they've changed the meaning to think it's some like dumb hick, some poor, indigent, backwards person. And that's not the truth of it. Redneck's something to be proud of, because it's the people who fought against the big man, right? We're not bootlickers like some people. I'm just saying, people conform and they put up with horrible conditions because sometimes they have no other choice. But rednecks had a choice, and they went on to fight because they knew their value. And so the next time somebody tries to use redneck in a negative connotation, you should remind them that rednecks are the badasses of history, and they're the ones that fight for their rights. So don't forget that, folks. Don't forget that, kids, okay? Like, we come from proud stock, hardworking men who fought for their rights. So, yep, that's the lesson I wanted to impart with this video, and to say happy Labor Day. And remember, that 3-day weekend is not just given. It was fought for, and don't let them keep you down. I love you all.